All right, y'all. So let's talk about the NBA 65 game rule. Now that the regular season's almost over, we're basically most of the awards we know at this point. All NBA teams, there's a few guys that maybe, you're trying to decide, but we know for the most part. So let's talk about this. Let's see the first season this rule has been implemented. How do we feel about it? What did it look like for the NBA this year? Let's see what it is. So when this rule was first announced in the offseason last year, after the Nuggets won the ring, it was during that offseason during the summer. I remember I thought it was a great idea, and I still do. To be honest with you, I love the rule. I loved the rule change at the time. I still love the rule change at the time. I think it completely did exactly what the NBA wanted it to. Like, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I guarantee you, if we looked at the amount of games that players missed, star players, for example, that missed due to rest, I guarantee you it has shrunk. I guarantee you that number has shrunk. I guarantee you there have been more star players playing more games this year than there were before, than there were in recent previous years with all the resting, especially like with certain guys like you see like LeBron, Kawhi. Even though they're older, they definitely have played more this year. I think the rule did exactly what it was intended to do. I'm sure that it made the NBA plenty of money with the regular season games. I'm sure there was better attendance at certain regular season games just because there were star players playing. I'm sure there was. And like I said, I don't have the numbers. I'm sure the NBA doesn't have all the numbers yet because the season's not over. But when those numbers come out, I guarantee you we'll see the effect. We'll see the impact that this rule had on the revenue, on the season, on the tickets, on the fan participation in games, not fan attendance. That's what I mean. Fan attendance at certain games, especially for if there's a good matchup, like let's say in the past, if we wanted to see Lakers Warriors, right? That was a great game last night. In the past, we would a lot of times, hey, maybe LeBron's resting, maybe Steph's resting, maybe AD's resting, maybe we're gonna be missing one of those three likely at some point in the past, or like other games like that, like Clippers, Lakers. You know what I'm saying? Like we weren't gonna see both full teams, but this year there have been a lot of regular season games that have been genuinely enjoyable, that have been genuinely fun to watch, that have been great games just because there have been more star players playing. You've gotten to see more moments. Guys' numbers this year are great. Um, and I personally believe that asking NBA players to play 80% of the games, which I believe 65% is it's like 85% of the games, I don't think that's unreasonable. Like, you're a professional athlete. I don't think that's unreasonable to ask you to show up to work 80% of the time. You know what I'm saying? I do understand when you're injured or when you're older like LeBron is, you're going to need extra rest days. You're going to cruise through some games. I'm not trying to say that they shouldn't. I'm not trying to say that they're soft for doing that or anything. But I'm just saying, asking, as a general rule of thumb, asking an NBA player to play 80% of the games if they want to be eligible for major awards for All NBA, All Defensive Teams, stuff like that, I feel like that's a standard that the NBA set perfectly at 65 games. And now there are downsides to this, right? Like, I see the people that are talking about look at the guys that aren't going to make All NBA because they don't have it. Look at the Donovan Mitchells, who's had a great year, deserves to be All NBA for sure. I mean, one of those three teams was going to have Donovan Mitchell on it, but he didn't have enough games. Joel Embiid, before he got hurt, was my MVP. Again, for me, he was the back-to-back MVP. I think he was having a much better year than last year. The Sixers were hot. They were rolling. They looked better than last year. To me, he was the MVP before he got hurt. Now, he's not going to be All NBA or anything like that because, he got hurt so early on. Jimmy Butler is not going to be on any type of, consideration. Like, there are a lot of guys. Julius Randle, OG Anunoby's not going to be all defense. For me, he would be a lock. Kyrie Irving, who's been having a great season, just hit a game winner today. That was a great game winner. He's not eligible. And then there are guys that are close. Now, when I made this, they were close. Some of these guys might have already missed the cutoff now. But these guys were close. Tyrese Halliburton, just to name a few. Tyrese Halliburton, Cat, Devin Booker, Trae Young, Alperen Sengun. It's tough, man. There are some names that you are going to want to see on awards lists that aren't going to be there, that aren't going to be finalists, that aren't going to be on ballots for stuff. And it's tough, but at the same time, the rule to me, I'd much rather have that, where you have a player not miss a season or two of being All NBA because of injuries, which has happened in the past anyway. That's gonna happen to guys' careers anyway. Sometimes guys are gonna get hurt. That's just how it is, especially when you're older. Sometimes guys are gonna get hurt. You're never gonna be able to prevent that. I personally don't believe that this rule has led to more injuries this year. Now, again, I don't know the numbers. The NBA would have to tell you that, but I haven't noticed there's a whole bunch of superstars going down out for the year. I haven't noticed that there's a lot of that, more than normal. Um, But this, so some guys that I just named, Sengun, Cat, Trey Young, are all likely to be out for the remainder of the season. So even though they're close to the cutoff now, those are guys that you can pretty safely say are not going to make the cutoff point. Those are guys that are not going to make that 65 game minimum because of injury and stuff like that. Which again, it sucks. Like there's a lot of these names are people I would consider, or some of them for me would be locks for All NBA, All Defensive, and teams like that and stuff like that. And it is tough. I understand that. Like you're gonna go to you can go to someone's basketball reference page, and that Donovan Mitchell not having an All NBA this year, it sucks because this has been a great year for him. He deserves it 100%. It is definitely one of those things with his legacy that it's like, man, you wish he was gonna get that. You know what I'm saying? But it's like the odds of that happening are gonna happen anyway. You know what I'm saying? So, like if you're injured a lot, to the point where like you're missing half the season or like 30% of the season, you weren't going to make those award lists anyways, because voters are going to be like the best ability is availability. My goodness, the best ability is availability, right? So there's going to be some guys that weren't going to vote for you for that anyway, which to me is why the rule, that's not a big downside to me, is that guys are going to miss award lists for maybe 1 or 2 years of their career because they couldn't stay healthy. Like it sucks, definitely it sucks. You want those guys to, like, if they have incentives in their contract for that stuff, you want them to get that money. And I hate that they're not going to get that money, but like there's nothing the NBA can do about that. I personally think the good with this rule has outweighed the bad for me, at least. Like I said, one season in, season's not over yet. I don't know all the numbers with the revenue and the injury numbers and stuff when you're comparing it to years past, but for me, eye test wise, with the way I've been paying attention to the league, this has been a good thing. This rule change has been a good thing. Like nobody wants to watch or attend a game where the best players aren't playing. Like Kobe said it once. He's like, a fan could have spent their last dime to be here, and I'm not gonna play because my finger's sore or something. Like, no, I'm gonna play and get that fan their money's worth. And it's real. Like some of not everybody can just afford to go to games all the time. Like I understand you got to check the injury report, but there are times where guys won't even be listed on the injury report until that day, and then you might have already bought the tickets. You know what I'm saying? Or like there was a game I think it was Embiid when he didn't play against Jokic or something earlier this year. I think it was in Denver. Like he wasn't even listed on the injury report until right before the game. Fans in Denver didn't know. They thought they were going to see Embiid versus Jokic, and then they didn't get to see that. So, I would be mad if I was a fan, even if I had money. I'd be like, well, I just wasted my money. Like, even if I'm well off, nobody likes to just waste money. I don't care how much money you have. Most people don't like to just waste it. And if you do like to just waste it, then it doesn't matter how much you have. At some point, you probably won't have that anymore. So there are good and bad to this, but to me, the good does outweigh the bad. It makes it a more enjoyable regular season for fans. And keep in mind, the NBA regular season is already long. It's already hard for them to retain viewers. Once it gets to December, January, the casual fan, bro, they're not watching those games. Like it even gets tough. Like there's the dog days of the NBA season. It even gets tough for guys like me. I've heard KLT4Q, Kenny Beecham talk about it before, where it's like it gets hard to follow the NBA. It gets a little boring. You gotta say stuff. You gotta do stuff to keep your mind into it. To keep watching those games all night, every night for 82 games for the whole season for 6 months. Like it gets hard for even guys that are paid to do it. Like Kenny Beecham. Like he's one of the biggest NBA content creators on YouTube, and it's like for him, he even opened up about it being hard during the dog days of the NBA season. So for the casual fan, how much worse would that be if we had guys like Kawhi, LeBron, AD, Jimmy Butler? If we had guys like that were just sitting out for rest days in those times of the season, that's going to make the viewership even worse. So I understand why the NBA did it. I like the rule change for revenue for the NBA, for viewership, enjoyment, for all of that, for fan attendance, for all of that. I like it. It's more enjoyable to watch the games on TV. Like if I have a slate of games and I'm like, ooh, this should be a good game, but is he going to play or not? There's a lot less of that thinking about it, right? Unless somebody's legitimately injured. Other than that, you're like, oh, you're expecting the guys to suit up because there's a penalty for them not suiting up now because these guys want their accolades. They want those incentives in those contracts. So, like I said, I'm a big fan of the rule. This was a shorter video today. Just wanted to talk about it. Season's almost over. It's a good time to talk about the rule, how it's looked this year. Like I said, to me, it's a good thing. I'd love to know how y'all feel in the comments, to be honest with y'all, because I haven't heard a lot of other people's opinions. So I would like to hear how y'all feel about it. If you're watching this video, let me know below. But it's going to end us off, man, with our Bible verse for today. This comes from a church service I was watching. This was mentioned in the service, and it stuck with me. It's 1 Corinthians 3:10, and it reads as the following: "By the grace God has given me, I laid a foundation as a wise builder, and someone else is building on it. But each one should build with care." Thank y'all. Love y'all. Have a good night.